Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching and Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channels. This is the All Star Wrestling Review series. We return to this series, thankfully, because they've put stuff up on Peacock that wasn't there prior. This is the January 10th, 1976 edition. Only 4 available from 76 at this point. I have a feeling that may be all that's available from the time span, but anyway, who knows? Maybe we get there, something like that there, and anyway, so Vince McMahon and Artino Rocca are your um, buddies here, as in terms of calling the match, and this airs on the 10th of January 1976, and interesting time span there. Um, the ring announcer is brought out, and all of that. Joe McHugh has a very unique voice, as one can imagine, and Bobo Brazil is here. Bobo Brazil, certainly a guy that many people know from his regional run. Danny O'Hannon is his opponent, and they go 7 minutes and 40 seconds. The majority of Bobo's stuff, honestly, is in um, the run of Detroit and that general area. Of course, the Sheik, his main opponent, or a main opponent for him, regardless. And, ultimately a worthwhile deal to see here. The Bobo is obviously in a good space here. Side headlocks, and the opponent takes him back to the ropes a couple of times. Bobo manages to have quite a few power-related maneuvers, power knuckle holds, and Greco-Roman knuckle locks, that sort of thing. Goes to work on the arm of his opponent pretty assertively, aggressively here. Bobo and the Sheik, as mentioned before, throughout Detroit, have, and throughout the, I guess, Midwest of the United States, feuded over the U.S. Championship at the time. I believe Bobo even brought that belt to the Garden a time or two over the years, 60s and 70s. Of course, Bobo Brazil, one of the few African American individuals to foray into things. Bobo eventually gets the victory with the cocoa butt and shakes hands with his opponent in the process after the match. We go to the next contest. Captain, or not Captain, but Freddie Blassie presents. And this is a big deal because Blassie's endorsement serves as a big deal for the time period for any star that he's with. Blassie, of course, presenting in this case Louis Cryer, defeating Pete McKay, 4.5-minute shoulder breaker after the bout. Cryer hit a second shoulder breaker. Blassie endorsing the man throughout, hanging on the outside with his, the cape deal and the whole thing there. Short knee. Blassie is animated throughout the entire run. Shoulder breaker is a finish back here, and actually looked like it hurt. Can you imagine somebody lifting and trying to drop you onto where your shoulder insertion is? Blassie's man also with headlock takeovers that are almost release in nature, almost like a judo style throw. More credibility than the average move today in a lot of ways in that sense. Now, things like the short jab into the throat and all of that are, a pretty big deal. Blassie turning to the crowd to brag a little bit about his man's prowess. Match is relatively one-sided, and the use of a second shoulder breaker post-match to drive the point home by Cryer is a pretty big deal. Then Ernie Ladd, who is A amazing promo at the time. Vince McMahon Jr. in a red sports coat, getting advantages for his, I guess, broadcasting ability. Ernie Ladd defeating Tito Torres and Silvano Souza in a handicap match, 4 minutes 48 seconds. Prior to the bout, Vince McMahon interviews Ladd at ringside. Ladd says he wants Bruno Sammartino in a match on television so he could embarrass him once and for all, and requests to face Ivan Putski and Bobo Brazil on television. Both of them main stars at the time, although Ladd claiming the promoters wouldn't allow it, didn't allow it. Ladd probably one of the more well spoken individuals at the time, a football player and a guy who certainly has everything necessary to be in control, kind of wearing the cowboy hat, almost mocking his uh, opponents as if to say, "Hey, you think I'm a redneck? You think I'm a big deal and all of that." But I can continue to be dominant. And again, you know, a couple of takedowns attempted by the 2-on-1 combatants, but Ladd, who is 6'8", 6'9", legitimately, and a football player, uses punches and kicks and basic maneuvers to get advantages. Ladd also puts the enhancement talents up over the middle rope on the inside and lays into them. Guys, actually do connect on these forearms, do connect on the maneuvers that are here. It's a lot less auspicious looking. Ladd also takes a body slam and a couple of knee drops along the way over his opponents. Then we go to another match here. After obviously Ladd gets the victory, we move to this time what ends up eventually becoming a tag team affair, which again, tag teams back in the 70s and even through the early 80s are a bigger deal than they are now, certainly for a number of reasons. Mainly Vince McMahon Jr. didn't see value in them, although I did hear once a explanation that in fact the lack of value was also a financial consideration, in so much that if you had to pay one guy, it was cheaper than paying two in tag team run. Tag team champions Tony Parisi and Luis Cerdan defeating Vincent Pomerani and Barry Michael Secluded 603 when Parisi beat Pomerani with an elbow drop. Cerdan and Parisi have been and continue to be kind of interesting runs. Parisi remaining in the actual competition ranks, whereas Cerdan, who does, but kind of the tag team divisions as far as he seems to go in terms of consistent victories. But anyway, battling over the arms and the like. Parisi, also a former tag team partner of Lou Albano, who goes, obviously, as we all know, into the managerial ranks at the time, obviously being the better talker of the bunch. And the Sicilians were a team throughout the 60s and 70s, which kind of there. Battling back and forth for control with headlocks and other basic maneuvers. The champions are in control through the majority of things. But what's nice is there's a lot of back and forth there. And eventually, obviously, the champions get a victory just after 6 minutes in through the contest. And we move to a match where Classy Freddie Blassie is out here once again. Blassie, of course, a guy who, without a doubt, is considered one of the influential individuals that allowed the WWF to get to a secondary level. Crusher Blackwell, presented by Blassie, did not know that Blackwell was here. And Bugsy McGraw with the Grand Wizard. So again, managers doing business, defeating Kevin Sullivan and Francisco Flores. Count out 5:38 when Sullivan's counted out after Sullivan gets his foot tangled in the ropes and being beaten by Blackwell when on the apron. And yes, that is but Kevin Sullivan, who later becomes the devil, for lack of a better term, in Florida and the like. So interesting that that run is there. Also interesting to see Kevin Sullivan with hair. Those of us who haven't seen much of that before now is there. And Blackwell and Bugsy McGraw probably could have been a very interesting team. Blackwell, of course, doing the majority of his heavy stuff in the AWA, and WWA working for the Bruiser a bit too over the years, but a majority of Blackwell's knowledge is in the AWA, which we will eventually cover, although there's a lot less of that available. Bugsy McGraw, who I did not realize was here as much as he is. Classy Freddie Blassie tries to interfere and grab the leg of his opponent along the way here. Meanwhile, Blackwell tries to use a surprising amount of collegiate acumen. Sullivan gets tossed to the outside, comes back in and takes some punishment from Bugsy McGraw, and again, the upside down in the ropes leads to a victory, kind of by stoppage and countout for Blassie's team. We will be back with more right after this.